I'm Corbett Wall with DB Auction, here with your feeder flash for Wednesday, April the 5th, brought to you in part by BNB Livestock Supplies and Trailers from Camp Point, Illinois. That's Andrew Flessner. I was able to go out to Illinois and do a presentation for a producer meeting that he had last week in Golden, Illinois. A lot of good people. He's a good young guy there. Got a young family, very aggressive on putting this together, this B&B outfit that he's got, which is the go-to place for everything cattle, hay, feed, and fence equipment, and all kinds of heavy-duty trailers, guys. Also, B&B Building Systems, same outfit. They feature hoop buildings to protect cattle or equipment. I talked to a lot of guys that were using those hoop buildings. They were feeding cattle in half of them, calving out cows in the other half, or parking equipment there. But those are turnkey hoop buildings with a 20-year warranty. For more information on B&B Livestock Supplies, go to bblst.com, and for the building systems, go to bbbuildingsystems.com. The search for fat cattle, and that's what packers are on right now, is really in search of high grading fat cattle. They got so spoiled with those high grading carcasses when we came out of the pandemic, and there were so many cattle that were obese and extremely heavy weight, but it made their carcasses higher in quality, and they found out that meat was so much easier to sell. They've just been really craving those high quality carcasses, and by quality I'm saying fat. That is what makes your quality grade, your prime choice grade. It's basically fat, and more so marbling, which is intramuscular fat. A lot of you guys know that, some of you may not, but you've got to have the fat on those cattle to get the high quality grade, which is what makes the high carcasses that bring the big money, and we're finding out that your consumers really want that. They might think that they want lean meat, but if they're going to buy a steak, they want one that is juicy and tender. To do that, you've got to get some marbling in there, guys. But the weights on these carcasses and the quality grade on them are declining seasonally. They always do this time of year. Our show lists are all young. Those cattle that were put on feed as long-tailed hard yearlings that grade so much easier, those are gone now. We're just on cattle that were put on feed as big calves. They're younger. They don't grade as well. Corn has been really high the whole feeding period on these cattle that are coming out of the feedlot right now. Likely a lot of these cattle feeders have been cheating a little bit on the ration, maybe not putting quite as much corn in there, and they're wanting to move those cattle, and the packers are so short bought and needing finished cattle that they're kind of coming after them. But all these things are bullish, guys, and we've just got so many bullish fundamental indicators right now. Hence the reason that we are approaching and just at the cusp this week, I think, of crossing the all-time record high price for fat cattle on a direct basis in your major feeding areas. But while many of us were watching our former president being indicted by his political foes on some kind of suspect charges there, your cattle board was going down once again for the second day of this week, while all classes of cash cattle were getting higher again. And we're not going to have a Friday trade day because of Good Friday here this week, so half of our sessions are over this week, and to get this thing turned back around, they're going to have to turn back around in a hurry. But you know, some of our technical analysts say that the board's just taking a little breather because it was up so much last week. Well, it's going to have to get its butt in gear if it's going to keep up with cash. April live cattle futures were down 52 cents on Tuesday to end at 167.60, and now that's getting close to about $1 cheaper than last week's weighted average in the 5-area feeding region. We hope that doesn't tempt the basis jumpers to prevent this fat cattle market from gaining ground again this week, and I don't think it will, because they're really enjoying getting paid more for cattle every week. June live cattle futures down a buck at 160.22, and that's the one that worries me the most. How are we going to lose 8 or 9 bucks here in the next 30 to 45 days on tight market ready supplies, guys? And I think it's a buying opportunity for you guys that like to gamble a little bit, to go on the long side of the fat cattle market for a change. We're always on the short side as producers, but we may need to help that along a little bit. A lot of money pushing it down here by people that aren't really paying attention to the fundamentals. Your back months on live cattle down 97 cents to up just 2 cents on a far out traded month. Feeder cattle, April feeder cattle down a buck at 197.95. That doesn't bother me so much, because it's still at a pretty good premium to what our cash index levels are at. So that may have to adjust here a little bit, especially as we start to get towards the middle part of the month. May feeder cattle down 87 cents at 202.27. Your back months on feeder cattle down 10 cents to down a buck 20. May corn futures down 4 cents at 653 3/4. December new crop down 7.5 cents at 560. Your May beans down 4.5 cents at 15.17.5, and November down 12 3/4 cents at 13.20 a bushel. Talk about your fat cattle trade. We haven't seen anything kick off as of yet, really, which is good, and we usually see that when everybody assumes that we're going to have a higher market and they're not going to cave to any kind of steady money. All we saw was less than 100 head sell direct in Iowa, and it was at 170 live, which was in the range last week of live sales in Iowa, but well ahead of our weighted average in the 5-area feeding region. But it was Tuesday, and we had another good fat cattle auction at Stockman's Livestock Market in Yankton, South Dakota. 2,300 head, 2,000 overnight cattle in there with the good weigh up. Now the conventional cattle were not as high in quality as what they had last week at that humdinger that was so much higher. Didn't have a lot of really high choice and prime type cattle there. Some of the cattle are carrying some tag yet, and the buyers are not wanting those either. But your conventional type cattle selling from 164.5 to 173, and as good as that sounds, that's about $1.50 to $2.75 cheaper than last week. But the top quality cattle, like what I was talking about at the beginning of the report, the really high grading cattle and the clean hided cattle, and your buyers not so particular as to programs, whether they were non-implanted or drug-free. They were just looking for the top quality. Those top quality cattle sold from 171 to 180. There was 250 head of fat cattle in Yankton on Tuesday that bring from 179.75 to 180, and those top sales of cattle were $2 to $3 higher than last week's sharply higher market. Talk about your box beef cutout values. Higher again, and I think we've probably started our spring rally on box beef cutouts. It's getting to the time of the year. It's starting to get warmer in some places in the United States, not so much in the northern plains, as they are facing yet another blizzard with snow measured in feet and not inches. But hopefully they will get out of that soon. But I did see several posts from my friends up in the northern plains, and they're saying the ground's really not that cold, and a lot of that snow is melting pretty fast, and they can still use the moisture up there because of that horrible drought that they had the last year or two up there. But still at record high prices for this time of the year. Choice cuts up $285 at $287.94, and we'll likely see choice cuts get over $300 here within the coming weeks. Selects up $377 at $277.95. I'm really surprised that we aren't seeing that choice select spread gap wider than what it is right now, but those are just spot box beef cutout value sales. We just see what the packers want us to see, and it's even a smaller snapshot of what that market really is than what we get on the fat cattle side, but it's really all we have, guys. Your slaughter is running below last week, 243,000 through the first 2 days of this week. That's 9,000 less than last week, 3,000 less than the same week a year ago, and we're not expecting much trade late in the week on Friday or Saturday due to your religious holidays that are coming up, guys. Talk about what else is going on. Rec Agra, which is Mark Rec, ranch realtor there, broker, and he has got another big ranch for us to talk about here that he's got listed for sale, guys. It is the RGM Ranch. It is more than 13,400 acres. Sits in Cheyenne County, Nebraska, which is just west of Sidney, Nebraska, in extreme western Nebraska, on the southwest corner of the Nebraska Panhandle there, just off of Interstate 80. But you want to check out that ranch. It's really something to see. It's mostly native pasture, and in that native pasture there's 27 different pastures, guys. The improvements are unbelievable there. Facilities are unbelievable. Some of that grass is in CRP, so that's some return that you can get right away there. But it's basically just a turnkey operation that you can come into immediately. It is a stewardship award-winning native rangeland operation there. Got beautiful scenery. Got some irrigated cropland there for whatever you'd like to raise, whether it be feed or hay. Excellent facilities, and facilities out in the pastures too when it gets time for shipping. It's got a nice 4-bedroom home on there. It's got a fairly modern calving barn on it, many outbuildings including a 40 by 60 shop. But all the equipment goes and the personal property goes, guys. But if you're interested in that ranch, get a hold of Mark Rec at Rec Agra. Talk about your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DV Auction. Late in the day on Tuesday, sitting at 194.24, up another 69 cents after gaining over $1 on Monday with your higher sales after last week's fat cattle market, guys. And we have seen no gains in your futures market since then. But your cash prices are where the rubber meets the road, and all higher here to start this week. Going to be heading to Weatherford, Texas, nearabouts there, and going to be at the online-only Wolf Cattle Company's online-only sale there. Their limousine production sale. I think it's 35 years that they've been having that thing. Get online with dvauction.com. Their buyback program is second to none, guys. It's going to be this Thursday, the 6th here at noon. Let's talk about your big sales on Tuesday. Ozarks Regional Stockyard in West Plains, Missouri. 2,200 head through the ring. Another nearly 500 head they do with their in-house video with help from DV Auction. The market there on your cattle going through the ring. Calves were steady to $5 higher. Most of the gains seen on the heifer calves. Yearlings were not well tested. Very few yearlings in the offering there, but just mostly calves, and a lot of them have some nice condition. Go on to Ozarks Regional Stockyards on dvauction.com. View and bid that sale every week. Your Zoetis stick-out sale of the day was Atkinson Livestock Market in Atkinson, Nebraska, on the Yellow Brick Road, guys. Over 2,000 head of feeder cattle. Look at this automated marker report. It was heavy in the 6-weight steers, and man, did they sell. But how about 263 head of 5-weight steers in Atkinson, Nebraska? They averaged 536 with a weighted average price of $250.70 on all of them. You got to look at these 6-weight steers. 643 head of 6-weight steers in Atkinson had an average weight of 648 pounds. Weighted average price on all of those, nearly 650 head, of $242.96, with help from one stick-out deal in the 6-weight category 164 head of steers weighed 691 at 241.50. Look at the biggest weight group of heifers, 397 head of 5-weight heifers, average 542, weighted average price 230.15. To give you some individual quotes from all around, how about Knoxville Livestock Auction Center in Mascot, Tennessee? They sell 112 head, 432-pound steer calves in Tennessee at $264.25. Thought that was impressive, especially the size of the lot there, guys. But Atkinson had another 6-weight deal that made your outstanding quotes. Atkinson Livestock Market, Nebraska, sells 96 head of steer calves, weigh 616 at $259.50. Are you kidding me? But most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Tuesday, as much for where it was at as anything, but your Mackerson no BS top quote for the day come out of Beaver County Stockyards. 61 head of steers weighed 826 at $195 in no man's land, Oklahoma Panhandle, guys, where it really hasn't rained in 2 years. That's your feeder flash for Wednesday.